All right, I have the top of the hour. And what I really like to say is thank you for being on time. It's my privilege to speak to you. I'm Monica Reynolds. I'm VP of Maps. Basically, I run Maps. We've got a great coaching company. Gary started 19 years ago. So if you have any interest in knowing more about coaching, you can email me at Monica, MONICA, at kw.com. Be happy to handle any questions for you. All right. So we've got on the screen here, and the reason you're on this call, there's 8 easy systems to turn your assistant into a profit center. Fascinating, fascinating. You mean the assistant doesn't cost me any money? Well, that's the goal once you see and you hear some of the things that I'm going to say. So this is a new screen talk that I put together with Stephanie, who's on the call with me, who's been my assistant for 12 going on 13 years now. And so what I want you to hear real clearly is that this is going to be a broad overview. So if we go to the first slide, you're going to see the first slide, and it says a great real estate assistant should be a profit center for your business. So Stephanie, let's move to the next slide. There you go. Okay. The first hire you should make is an assistant. This gives you leverage and allows you to focus on 20% of the activities that make you the most impact in your business. The most impact in your business have a dollar sign. Watch this. You as an agent, your dollar sign is this. Number 1, you lead generate, you lead follow up, you go on listing appointments, you go on buyer appointments, you role play, and you write contracts and negotiate. Those are dollar signs, dollar productive activity. So as you move through your schedule, and hopefully if you don't have the Bull planner, you should have that. Gary carries a planner. I carry a planner. It's a great, great tool. You should really put in there the things that you're doing that have a dollar sign attached to it. It really brings your focus in. Yet, the assistant is responsible for building a duplicatable and scalable systems. She's the CEO, or he is the CEO of the file. Increase the database. That's your only asset. Develop repeat and referral business. Keep the agent on track. That means they know your schedule, and answer all incoming phone calls. Now, that might be a little foreign to some of you. So we're going to break down a few of these and a few more. So the next screen that you're going to see, Stephanie, let's pull it up, is that the assistant monitors team goals. And yet when someone, authorship is ownership. Okay, that's one of those Gary Keller things. Authorship is ownership. And when you look at this one, this is the assistant's business plan. If you don't have a business plan, you don't have a coach, you can email me at monica@kw.com. I'm happy to get you a business plan. But this one is for the assistant. And yet, if they don't have any ownership into the goals, how do they have any authorship in achieving those? So again, they monitor the goals, but they're part of the goals. So as you look at this, you're going to see that, there's the yearly goals, the monthly goals, et cetera. And yet the most important thing that I want you to see is what's their contribution? Personal referrals, team referrals, okay? Also, they're going to be agents recruiting for the downline, agents recruited for the team, income earned, okay? So one of the things that really clear is that they're part of the partnership. They're part of the partnership. And reviews and referrals. Obviously personal referrals, but also your client's reviews and referrals during that transaction. So now there's accountability. Any questions, put it in the chat box. We'll get back to it. All right, let's go to the next screen, Stephanie. So on the next screen, you're going to see listing systems. So you have to have a pre-list package. You can get it on command if you don't have one. It's there, it's free. Just insert your picture and your information. That's great. That sets you up. Now, the assistant should be doing that for you. So isn't it great when you are focused on your dollar productive activities with the dollar sign and you're not putting a pre-list package together? You're not trying to pull this together. It's boom, the assistant, he or she is doing that for you. It's also sent out for you, whether it's email or delivered. Bulletproof checklist. So ordering the sign, putting the lockbox on, getting the lockbox, the keys organized, the showings. Why are you doing that as an agent? Stay in your 20% most of the day, right? Pass the baton. So I'll share with you a little bit about that coming up. Pass the baton is the assistant's first call to that client. Too many times, agents on this call, I have heard that the assistant is not the key person during the listing process. They should be the key person. You only call once a week to see how they're doing. You don't answer any questions. You refer back to your assistant, even though our egos massively want to say, I know the answer. Let me tell you. You say, great, that's a great question for Stephanie. Let me have her call you right back. Showing forms and scripts, I'm going to show you that. Price improvements. Not if they're not licensed, they can't help you with that. Monica@kw.com is my email. Price reductions, okay. Price improvements, not licensed, they can't do that. The assistant business plan, handling all incoming calls. And so again, these are tips for success. And in that business plan, it goes back to reviews and referrals. So during this listing process, every single assistant should get one review or one referral during that time of the listing. All right. Next screenshot is going to be pass the baton from listing agent to listing manager. So you as a listing agent, under no circumstance can you possibly consider this. And that is, I am so sorry, UPS is at my door and it's not good. All right. So hold on one second here. Earlier today than they're supposed to be. All right. Okay. Pass the baton. So listen to this. This is critical. You can't throw a file down to your assistant and say, okay, call them up and get it going. You have to explain to them, what's the motivation? Is it a happy, a sad situation? The key thing too, to remember on all of this is that when you're looking at this, is that you as an agent are communicating, what exactly is happening here. They lost their job. There's a death in the family. Must be something from Chewy for the puppy. Sorry about that. Thought I was on mute. All right, Chewy's a bad boy. Okay, so when you pass the baton, is it exciting that they're moving? What's the situation? Because the assistant going in for that first call to introduce them, they need to tone down their enthusiasm if it's a sad situation. And they need to bring it up if it's great, they're moving, they got a job. A promotion, everybody's excited. So you have to know how to go into that call. And customer service is, do you have any pets on the premise? Customer experience is when the assistant says, oh my gosh, I heard about your family member Tank. I hear he watches dog TV all day. I hear he has his own couch and his own, special bedroom. How sweet is that? I'd love to meet him someday. That's the customer experience, that the baton was passed correctly. Under no circumstance should you ever expect an assistant to call a listing without having passed the baton. Okay, next one, if you take a look at, let's talk about the feedback and showings. And by the way, I'm going to cut out all that part. So if you want to listen to the recording, that part's going to be cut out, Stephanie, about the dogs. All right, feedback, questions, showing form. All right, so do not use Showing Desk or whatever Zillow has. That is our competitor. They now have all your information and your client's information. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. They are building a massive database. Don't do it. And I've never done that. I wanted the personal touch of going back to the agent. Hey, thanks for showing Monica's listing at 123 Cherry Street. Do you have 1 minute? I have 3 fast questions for you. Great. Or they go, what house did I show? Okay, it's 123 Cherry Street. It's the house with the green door in the backyard, had a lot of beautiful flowers. Oh yeah, now I remember. Okay, the agent says, would your client like to buy the house? Are you writing an offer? Well, no. Okay, what would it take for your buyer to write an offer? Well, I don't think it can be fixed because the freeway noise, and they're coming from freeway noise and they're trying to avoid that. I went, okay. What, in your opinion, we value that. What do you feel the house will sell for? Oh, it's about $25,000 overpriced. Really? Okay, well, thank you for that feedback. Now, the reason you're doing this is downline to bring them into Keller Williams. That's a pretty profitable thing for all of us if you pay attention to it. And Keller Williams is on the growth. I mean, we are growing faster than any franchise right now. The second thing is this a team member for you? And so also listening, a great assistant will hear, no, they don't like it because the kitchen wasn't open to the family room. There's a wall there. A great assistant, true story, like Stephanie on this call said, if that wall could come down and even be a pony wall, a half wall, would they be interested? Oh yeah, the house was perfect, perfect location, perfect school, perfect everything. They just not going to have a concept where it's not open. Great. So we found out it was $2,500 to pull the wall down, have a pony wall and a beam, and they were good with it. And we moved on and sold the house. So how does that assistant help you with that? They are a profit center. They pay for themselves when they do things like that. The next one, let's talk about the closing system. The closing system is basically where the relationship is built during the listing. The relationship is built during the buyer showings, if you're working with buyers, and the relationship is glued down for the future in the closings. The closings are where the icing on the cake. This is where it all happens, where whether we're going to move forward with this client for life or not. And so that's why this critical part, whether your assistant does contract to close or your assistant is a TC only, this part is really critical, that they are trained. They are trained at the highest level. So you want a bulletproof checklist, pass the baton again, listing manager to TC, buyer agent to TC. You need to have that transition. Setting expectation script, letting the seller know exactly what's going to happen next. What are the pitfalls? What are the challenges? And then calling every day. Some of you are going, what? You call the closing every single day? Yes, because they're taking 6% off the value of their home. It's not their equity. It's 6% of the value of their home. So they're expecting some service. Now you're going to go, well, I don't get all of that. Fine. But they signed a contract, or they feel that that's coming off the top. They don't care what the split is. They know that that's coming off the top. So I teach assistants to really understand that if they're involved in the closing, this is where the relationship is glued down and built for the future. It's built for the future. And obviously getting reviews and referrals. So if you go to the next screen, and what I want to share with you on this screen is setting expectations for closings. And so one of the things, obviously there's pass the baton, but setting expectations for closing. So you're going to request for repairs. And so we always approach it if they're a buyer and if they're a seller. Is your assistant able to do these sort of things at the highest level? Have you role played with your assistant at the highest level to be able to have a different conversation with a buyer? And so basically what we train our assistants to do when it comes to a buyer is to say the things we're most concerned about is a health hazard, is that's not to code. And also importantly, that if there is any structural defects. So we're looking for those things. We're very careful to, and then we say, there'll be some items that just happen in any home. And then we're letting the seller know, I know, your home, the job of the inspector is to find every little thing, whether it's a crooked light switch or a light switch that it doesn't have power, they will find it and they will make note of it. And so those are the critical things that having those setting expectations for the appraiser, that it may come in lower. And what are the 4 things that can be done when an appraiser comes in lower? So having your assistant prepared. Remember, if they're not licensed, they can't talk about price, terms, condition. They can't negotiate. They can set the stage, but they can't negotiate. All right. So if you go to the next slide, and the next slide is basically this would be system 4. So system 1 was the goals. System 2 was the listing. System 3 was the closings. Now, tracking the growth of your database. Put an assistant in charge of that. That's your only asset. It's not a Louis Vuitton bag. It's not the Lexus or Escalade you're driving. No, those are depreciating assets. This is where you make the big bucks. And so, increase the database by a minimum of 3 per day. Now, some teams are pretty aggressive. If they've got 4 or 5 on the team, then let's say they have 5, then they're going 15 a day. And so 3 a day is a great benchmark to build up that muscle of increasing the database every day. The assistant's in charge of tracking the growth. Organizing also, when you look at this one, when you look at organizing this, there's 5 referrals, okay? And so when someone says they've got 35% of their business from referrals, I go, that's great. That means you're getting enough good new business too. However, break it out. Agent referral, team referral, vendor, your affiliate referral, sphere of influence, past client. Past client is different than a sphere of influence. That way you can track, are you getting referrals from your past client? Are you getting referrals from your vendors? Are you getting referrals from your team? track those, break them out. Your assistant is the person to do that. Okay, so when you look at the next one here, what percentage of your business comes from your database? Some people will say it's 70, it's 80%. And I would challenge you as a coach, and the head coach of MAPS here, is that you need to focus on finding new business too. If that 80% is, say, 100 transactions, what if it was 35% and 100 transactions? So you're always looking for growth. You're always looking for new business. Would you consider online leads as a vendor? Oh, no, no, no. A vendor are people that you line their pockets with money. So title, home warranty, home inspector, obviously a lender. Who are the affiliates that you use? And you only want the very best, and your assistant stays on top of that. Okay, next slide, Stephanie. Okay, so referrals. This is system number 5. So when you have a great relationship with a lender, you have a great relationship with, a title person. I know RESPA law. I get it. I know what they can do and I know what they can't do. So they can do marketing and they can do lead generation systems. They can contribute to your client appreciation parties. They never give you money. They never write a check. They can give it to the vendor. Some states differ. Texas is really tough with title, but most states, a lot of title people can do a lot of things to help you. So there's 2 things on this referral. Every single client you should get 1 referral from while you're in that transaction. If you ask and you promise, do the promise. So basically the promise script is this at a listing presentation. And you're saying, once they've signed the listing, I would like to promise to you that on a scale of 1 to 10, my team and I will deliver a 12 experience to you. Now, we know it's real estate and it's people. So there are things that'll happen sometimes that it's out of our circumstance, but we will stay informed. We will keep you abreast every step of the way. Our job is to make it as smooth as possible. And again, it's real estate and people. All that I ask during our relationship together is that, would you be so kind as to help me find 1 buyer or 1 seller while we're together? And I promise to deliver a 12 experience to you. Everybody says, sure. Okay, great. Now, they heard it once. And then you train your assistant to say, oh, by the way, did Monica mention our promise? They go, yeah, she did. You great. I just like to restate, we want to deliver a 12 experience on a 1 to 10. It's real estate and it's people. So the same script goes. Imagine asking every single client, and the goal is to get 1 referral from every single client. Every single client. It can be done. It is done. A lot of agents do it extremely successfully. Now, what if you keep track of the vendors that you line their pockets? So remember, I've been in real estate 40 years. I've trained more assistants and agents than anyone in the country. And this here will tell you, vendors, list the vendors that you give business to. What are they doing to help your business? Do you have a copy of their database? Do you have a copy of all their employees, name, address, phone number, and emails? And obviously going back to the database, that's called completes, name, address, phone number, and emails. Your assistant is in charge of that. That is why they are a profit center if you follow these systems, and it's not you doing the job, but it's growing the business. And yet let's keep track of who does something for you. My affiliates, I asked them to give me 1 referral per month, and my assistant would call and say, where's our referral? Now the likelihood is pretty good, but it's better that you'll find out they'll give you at least 1 a quarter. So if you ask every month, you get 1 a quarter in some of the stats. However, there are lenders that I've worked with that had a lead for me every single month. Some I had to nurture, obviously, but some were really right on top. Okay, the next system, lead generation system. Okay, and so when you look at this one, you need to identify 5 sources of business. Too many agents have 25, 30 sources of business. What are your top 5 sources of business? Quarterly return on investment. Your assistant should be tracking the leads that are coming in, the conversion rate, and also what did it cost for each lead versus how much you spent. So it should be a minimum of 4 times return. So if you have, okay, so Stephanie, let's get that. Okay, so if you had spent $10,000, you should get at least $40,000 plus in return. So remember, 4, 5, 6 time return on the business. So if your assistant's tracking that and you realize, for example, one of my agents was paying $5,000 a month to Zillow and his team really wasn't converting Zillow leads because they were too busy with everything else. So he pulled off. Nobody even noticed, but the assistant tracked it and they could see that last 6 months, nothing had happened. Quarterly return on investments is absolutely critical in the money that you're spending on lead generation. Market of the moment. The assistant is keeping track of what's going on in the market. What are the hot areas? Has the price points changed? Days on market, listing price to sales price. What are those percentages? So that you know if there's a certain area that's red hot, that they're selling really quickly, or there's a lot of activity in that area, your assistant is helping you with market of the moment by looking at all the statistics that you want. Okay, schedule. So your assistant is aware of your lead generation schedule. This is your opportunity. And the key thing is that you have a scheduled time also where you're reviewing the leads that came in for the week, what the conversion rate was, where did those leads go? So there's that little quick meeting of, we got 14 leads this week. We had name and address on some of them, or we had name and email. We've reached out. We were able to get phone numbers now. So getting understanding when you have leads come in, a lot of the top agents in Gary's mastermind says, we don't need more leads. We got leads. We need conversion. So really paying attention to that and have your assistant be part of that process. And then what's your budget? What's your budget for marketing and lead generation? So a good rule of thumb is 10 to 12%, not to go above that. So be careful, because I know a lot of you spend a lot more than that. So be careful with that. All right, let's go to the next system. Okay, so system number 7 is tracking numbers and sources. All right, so why are reports important? It's accountability, it's your scorecard. It's organized for you this way so you can really see your business. It's a GPS, for your, okay, so that's goals, priorities and strategies. So that's a form. And if you need that, you can also email me at monica@kw.com. Build a duplicatable and scalable business. And so that's why you need to look at your numbers every single week, if not daily, and every single month, and yet go back and compare it with what you did last year. So all of that is available in mykw.com. You can see your tracking, your trends, and you can see all of that from last year and how you've improved and what happened this month and how you exceed those goals. All right. You will get the slides, Raymond. They come back with you with the recording. All right. So I like whiteboards and I like spreadsheets. It's team accountability, individual accountability, and visual scorecard. So I know a lot of you are virtual, gone back to virtual again with different situations in the country. However, if you're in an office, even if your assistant is virtual, I'd love for them to know the goals. Love for them to have a whiteboard in the office or wherever that's tracking. Here are the listings. Here are the sales. Here's the source of business. And so all of those things are critical to the success. Real estate is just a math equation. It's very simple. Once you understand the numbers, how many contacts do you need to an appointment? How many appointments to a listing taken? How many listings taken to a sale? It's just numbers. Okay, how to be successful with reports. You have a scheduled review. Once a week is what I would sit down with my assistant and look at all the pendings, look at the closings. I look at our numbers. I look at the numbers from the year before and what we're on track to do right now. Dates and times must be attached to the delivery. So you always have a date and time for any of your goals in any situations or any projects that you're working on. It must be posted. Every single one of my assistants had a one-page business plan posted right there in front of them every single day. Our team knew our team goal. Together, each achieves more. We were very purposeful about that. All right, let's go to the next slide, Stephanie. So a lot of people say, what numbers need to be tracked? I go, I like a lot of information, but I like it to make sense. So listing appointments, buyer appointments, listings taken, buyer broker agreements signed, listings pended this week, buyer sales pended, listing sales closed, buyer sales closed, contracts, database current number, database added completes. Now, database, knowing when you say current number, that's the completes. Name, address, phone number, and email. I never want to know about names and emails until they turn into a complete. That's then part of the database. And what was added this week, recruiting calls. So if you're building a team, then you've got to have that to be tracked also. What's not on here, you need to make sure, and that's just a given, is that how many contacts are you making per week? If you made 20 contacts a day, I guarantee you'll change your business. Yeah, I guarantee you'll change your business if you made 20 contacts, not calls, because that means you did a dial and you talked to 3 people. It's contacts. So contacts is another number that should absolutely be monitored. Okay, let's go to the next one, Stephanie. So on this particular one, I want you to take a look at System 8, Customers for Life. The easiest business is when a customer calls you and says, hey, my brother's moving to town. Could you help him out? Hey, I just heard my neighbor's selling their house. Or, hey, we need some help. We've decided to downsize. You're the first call they make. You're the first call they think about when they hear of someone. And how do you build that customer for life? So, in the training that I do in the Perfect Real Estate Assistant, we do a deep dive into all of these subjects that we've talked about. And one of them would be the customer for life and creating these drive-through events, especially with COVID, pie giveaways, shredding document. We've done this where you rented a shredding truck. It's only $350, I guess, for 4 hours that we rented a truck in California. Did it on a Saturday when the parking lot was empty and people brought their documents and we shredded them. And at the time it wasn't COVID. So we had, we had our vendors do a popcorn machine. We had face painting for the kids and we had hot dogs and Cokes. It worked out great. Movie night, very successful. Agents have done that very successfully. 4th of July, giving out cookies and flags or dropping off cookies and flags, whatever it happens to be. So think about building that, but having your assistant be in charge of that, having your assistant have a schedule. So hear this, if you have your business plan put together, what is your marketing plan? What are you doing for the first quarter of the year, January, February, March? What are you doing for the second quarter? Isn't that great when you can delegate and have a partner to help you with that? Photo shoot events. So Santa Claus, a lot of agents that I know have done the Santa Claus events this year. It's even a drive-through Santa Claus. They can take their pictures, stand outside, 6 feet away from Santa. Not the cutest, but it still works, right? Not the most fun for some, but it still works. And also, breakfast with Santa. And I said to this one agent, I said, breakfast, that sounds like a lot of work. And they go, oh, it's just donuts and juice. I went, oh, okay, that's breakfast for a lot of kids that like that on Saturdays, right? Easter bunny, family portraits, pet portraits, all that's pretty fun. One agent I know hired a pet photographer that was, kind of known in the area, and bring your pet and have a photograph made. Kind of fun, keeps you involved, right? Virtual events, paint party, flower arranging, wine tasting, investment club, book club, photography tutorial. So I think outside the box. Who do you know that could be of interest to teach someone something? Building that relationship, building that trust bridge. I mean, we do a good job selling, and yet we have to be thinking about, okay, what is it? What is it besides selling? What can we do to keep that relationship going? What is it that they need? The MREI book, Millionaire Real Estate Investor. If you go to kellerinc.com, you can buy a case of those books and give those out to your friends and their friends. And I said friends, right? To your clients, and create those relationships and say, you mentioned to me one time you might be interested in investments. Read this book by Gary Keller. It's phenomenal. I mean, giving them those kind of things, it makes such a big deal. All right. Okay, so the next slide that we have is I want to recap a couple of things, and we're on time here for me to answer some questions. Okay, so system number 1, tracking and monitoring goals. If your assistant's part of the goal, authorship is ownership. Authorship is ownership. So when they have part of the goal, so what I've learned, say in the last 3-4 months, is that really understanding that team members want to know what part of their contribution is important to make the wheels turn, to make everything happen. So your real estate assistant is the conductor of the trains. I mean, she makes all the trains, he makes all the trains run down the track. And so this is an integral part, is tracking and monitoring goals. The 15th protocol is something that I teach where the assistant analyzes the number on the 15th. What's the gap? Where are we? What needs to happen? System number 2, listings, customer experience, MMFI, make me feel important. So passing that baton, giving feedback on showings. Number one complaint to NAR when they do surveys is that they never get feedback on showings. The other thing that was astronomical number to me was 68% of all real estate clients don't care if they use the agent again. Now, no one on this call, right? But just remember, if some of your clients would have said, yeah, it doesn't matter who we use. Where's that relationship built? And when you have a great real estate assistant, they are phenomenal. They're mentioning your name all the time. They're saying, did I catch it a good time? Great. Monica asked that I call and give you this information. You're building this relationship with them moving forward. Okay, system 3. Now, this is where the relationship gets glued down with the customer service. And even if it goes a little squirrely, when you over communicate, and I train assistants to call every single day. Never tell the client you're going to call every day. You say, well, call often. When you make those forward outgoing calls, it prevents a lot of lunacy where these calls are coming in. And most buyers and sellers only hear 25% of what's said anyway. So this is a great way to build that bridge of trust and bridge of you're important. You're very important. MMFI, make me feel important. We're making them feel important. And obviously the goal is to get a review and a referral from every single client, 5-star review, right? Database, it's the only asset. How many do you have in your database right now completes? And I bet the majority of you really haven't looked at that lately, but that should be looked at monthly, if not weekly. Name, address, phone number, and email, okay? All right, now the other thing that you want to also look at is that they're in charge of the growth. So you have a goal for next year, how many you're going to add to your database. Gary says 3 per day. As a single agent with one assistant, 3 a day. But then you charge your assistant to add their database too. But that's another thought when they bring in a team referral, right? And then obviously, what are you doing to market to that database? And if you're not using command, go check it out. Go check it out. Go check it out. I know it has some glitches before. Go check it out. You won't believe how amazing it is. All right, system 5 would be referrals. So there's a Keller Williams network. How are you getting your referrals? What are you doing to get referrals? Why aren't you using that? Why hasn't your assistant gone in and pulled the top 100 agents from group, team, and individual and putting those in your request so when they go in to look to who lives in Dayton, Ohio, or who lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico, then they're going to see the agents and then they can pick you. All right. System 6, lead generation. Oh man, this is a big one. What are the 5 sources and having your assistant track that for ROI? Because sometimes we say these are the 5 sources, and then there's this 6th one that really comes on strong, and we're hardly spending any money on it. So what can we do to continue to do that and even make it better? All right, monitoring the numbers. Real estate's a math equation. That's all it is. How many contacts to an appointment, how many appointments to listing taken, how many listing takens to sold, how many buyer showings to how many buyer presentations to a buyer agency sold, how many buyer agencies sold to contract, and how many non-buyer agencies sold to contract to close. Very interesting numbers. It's really fun to know your business like that. Tracking numbers is one of the best things an assistant can do for you. All right. System 8 is the customer experience, building that customer for life. So as you heard this call today, these are ways that your assistant is a profit center. These are ways that your systems move forward. They're duplicatable and scalable, whether you're doing 25, 225, or 2,000 transactions. Everything is duplicatable and scalable. All right, next slide, Miss Stephanie, and then we'll open it up for questions. Okay. So these are the classes that I teach, and the next ones are not until March. There is $100 savings if you click on it's $199 a month. What happens on the Perfect Real Estate Assistant? You get 450 pages of a policy and procedures manual. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, and then you can go there. You can email me if you want more information. And then the Perfect Operations team is when you're building a hub. You have a listing manager, you have a TC, and you have a director of operations, or you're building that. That's the one for you. Each one of them have over 400 pages of operations. Okay, Steph, let's take that down. And Steph, if you can look at some of those questions for me. And then if anybody has a question, now's the time to talk to me. Love to meet you and talk. Who has a question? I know I go fast. You'll get this recording. And the second thing is you'll get the PowerPoint too. It'll be in the recording. What if waiting until March seems too far away? What do you do with your assistant? Okay, so good news about that. So in the meantime, start looking at, Jen, your systems that you have based off of what I said, and having your assistant start working on one at a time. So let's say you start with closings, which would be a really good one. What do you have in place now? So the good news is you're going to build some systems before March. So then your assistant has, okay, this is what we're doing. Go, wow, we could add that. Wow, we could do that. Wow, we need to change that totally. So the systems are in place. So take all those systems. And if I were to come to your office on a scale of 1 to 10, what are they rated now? But only give your assistant one to work on at a time. Thank you, Kristen. Cyberbacker and Priya program loves it. We are working on adapting it to work with us, and it's going well. Good. What is your best script for putting out there that you are looking for taken? I don't understand that one. You'll have to redo that one. Do you have a template spreadsheet to track all of those things? Yes, in the program, there's tons of templates and things to track. And yet you don't want to have so many systems that all your system does is tracking. So you have to narrow it down to what is it that you're tracking. So for example, you want to track those numbers. You've got that. Put it on a spreadsheet, and add contacts on there. If you don't do buyer broker agreements, shame on you. You should in this market for sure. Put that in the spreadsheet. Those are easy Excel spreadsheets to duplicate. How many do you accept in the program to get one-on-one help with specific questions? Well, here's the good news. When you come to the program, it's live calls. It's me, and it's assistants on the call. Now, for the first 45 minutes, I go through, they put questions in. The last 15 minutes of the program, I call on them. I ask them to put their screen on. And I tell them your agent wants the screen on. So I would call and I'd say, hey, John Bentley, I need to ask you a question. Hey, Bill Ferguson, hey, Rachel Carr, I would call on you. And so what's the best thing you got out of today's call? Come from the heart of a teacher. All right. What should be the admin's referral standard per each quarter? So Olga, I don't know your assistant, but I say to every assistant, here's what I say. Your salary is your salary. It is not a dead-end cul-de-sac, because what I want you to do, Olga, is I want you to bring in one referral from your sphere of influence, friends, family, past coworkers, go to the gym, church, any organization, soccer, whatever it is, bring in one referral. I want you to make more money on referrals. They have to be licensed, then I pay them 25%. They're not licensed, and I just pay them a flat lower fee until they get licensed. Every assistant, in my opinion, should be licensed. It'll keep you from any big challenges of anything that they might say. So, the goal is one. Why not? What does that look like? And show them what that means. If your average price is this, and what does that look like? And get them to really work hard on it. I always have every assistant bring at least 300 people, their name, address, phone number, from their sphere of influence of anybody that they know. They have that goal to get there first. It goes in the database with a field with their initials on it. Okay.
So Monica, what Tim was asking is, what's your best script for putting out there that you are looking for talent?
You put it in your data. Okay. So you got a database, you send it out there, you put it in Facebook and say, thank you so, Happy New Year. Thank you so much for supporting my business. I'm so excited to announce that I am looking for team members. My business is growing thanks to you. Please pass this on to anyone thinking about a career in real estate. I'm looking for a great admin, and I'm also looking for a great agent. Do that. Okay, that's one of the best ways. And then, of course, when you come to the class, I go through about 14 other things that you can do to find a great assistant. And so everything from asking your vendors to give you 3 names, not saying, do you know someone? Give me 3 names. I can have a job right now who would be a great fit. I don't have to use your name. I need 3 names. Okay. Any attorneys in town. You have a title, you have a vendors. You ask all of them. The other thing is that really diving deep into, if you have a team, is having them go find someone to help you with. Wise Hires, another great place to look. There's a whole bunch of them. Okay, what's the next one, Steph?
Having a cyberbacker VA, how can we help them create or find referrals?
Well, that's difficult when you have a cyberbacker that doesn't live, here for their friends, family, and coworkers. That's a little tough. However, if they're talking to the client, they should be asking for referrals on every call. And so you have to tee up the ball, though. You have to set that expectation up. And it's really important that you tell every single time you're at a listing or you're working with a buyer, you'll be working with, my professionally trained assistant, Janice, whatever, she's also known as a cyberbacker. She's been professionally trained, and she will ask you time to time also, our promise and our and if you have any referrals, we'd love to know. So you have to set that up. Having a VA assistant, how can we maximize their talents? Well, that's a very broad question. And so here's how I'd say. How often are you role playing? How often are you training? How often are you reviewing all of these systems? And so if I was to come to your office right now, Miss Alba, what systems would you want me to see? Which ones would you want to hide from me? So it's very simple. A VA is a perfectly great way to start. The only challenge is that VAs can't, print something off for you and hand to you. So there's a few things that cause a challenge there. Stephanie, what else do you see?
At what point before the closing does the assistant begin calling the client each day?
Okay, great question. All right. So at what point does the assistant start calling every single day? When you pass the baton. So you take it to your TC, or your assistant knows now, if you've got one assistant, they're the listing manager and the TC, that it starts immediately. And so once that the file has been transferred, the assistant calls immediately. And there are scripts that we give in the training. It says, thank you for, congratulations. If they don't know these people, congratulations. I understand your home is sold and this is exciting. I know you're moving to Chicago and I know you got a job promotion. How great is that? Good for you. Well, thank you for working with us. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to call you often. And today we're going to talk about this. Is this a good time to talk? You have 15, 20 minutes, whatever it happens to be on that first call. So immediately they start calling. The next day they goes, I know we covered a lot. It's part of our customer service. Monica asked that I call you to see if you have any questions. I also sent you a follow-up email with a few of the points. Did you receive that? Call, email, call. People are under stress. They don't hear anything you're saying, maybe 20%. So you call them, you email them, and you call them the next day. Constant communication. And if you have nothing to say, just say, I wanted to touch base, see if you have any question. How's it going? And oh, by the way, I wanted to check in. I know we have a promise to you that we want to deliver excellent customer service. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate us right now? Ask the question. Then you can fix the problems, right? Okay. I'm glad you're real. Yes, I'm real. And I'm sorry about the Chewy dog. He's Hispanic. He doesn't know English. So he knows when I yell at him. All right. He's a rescue. It's very interesting, my house right now. Okay. All right. Let's see.
I have a good one, Monica.
Are people's goals for adding names to the database every single month? Okay, it should be 3 per day, which would be 60 per month. Is a very low, doable number. And yet, Miss Nancy, if you have team members like buyer agents, I would give them at least 1 a day. Get people purposely growing the database with name, address, phone number, and email. Name and email don't count. Name and phone number don't count. It's the whole enchilada there. Okay. All right. What else, Steph?
Ozzy says, sometimes my assistant gets on my nerves. Is that normal? Haha.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, because we know that as agents, everybody has a different personality style. So in the training, I train your assistants to understand who you are. Reading your KPA. Some of you are going to go, what's a KPA? Keller Personality Assessment. Also, then I'm also going to share with you not only reading the KPA, but taking a DISC test. DISC. Some of you are familiar with that. Most market centers have availability into that. So when I talk to an assistant about a high D like myself, talk too fast, appears rude, going a million miles an hour, and has imaginary conversations that they told you something when they really didn't because they forgot to. But anyway, so they all have a good laugh about a high D because I can talk about them because I live it. I'm a triple D. And yet they need to understand that there's personality styles of an agent and timing. So a high C agent needs facts, figures, and information. A D just goes, bottom line it. Are we making money? Bottom line it. Are we making money on that lead generation? The high C is going to want to see all the facts. And me, I'm not going to see the facts. Just give me the bottom line. Oh, we're not? Okay, we need to figure something out. I don't need to know the numbers. I'm going to trust you on that. So I teach them that. So yes, if there's personality style. So for example, if you're a high D and you've hired a high I, and they come in as Mr. Bubbly or Miss Bubbly. Hey, how are you today? What's going on? That's the last thing a D wants to know is, how are you today? A D doesn't want to tell you how they are. It's none of your business. They just want to work, right? And so those different personalities, the S's are the nice people. So, if they're getting on your nerves, it's that you've got to slow down and speak their language. They speak Italian, you speak Italian. They speak I, you speak I. They speak S, you speak S. C, analytical, you speak C. Most assistants that you want to hire are going to be what I call a CSI, analytical, the nice person, and have a little energy. Okay. Not too much energy, but a little energy. All right, good. Any other questions, Stephanie?
Yeah, here's a good one, Monica. What should we do with contacts in our database that only have a name and an email? And
a name and an email, then what's your campaign? So there's campaigns in command, and I give a campaign in the assistant program, a 10 days of pain, where we are going at them and saying, here's what we have, here's what we know, we have a secret listing, we have this. And if they reach back, we say, what's your number, please? So we can call you to give you this information. So you have to have a system where you're emailing them 10 days of pain. Now, never torch them. I still put them on any things that I do. Like I do a video about, a new business in town. I do a video about the market. I do a video about a new listing. We're sending all those to them until they opt out. And sometimes they swing around. It's not a large number, but sometimes they'll swing around. If they're serious, they'll swing around. But you never torch anything. You never torch anything, but you do track the conversion. You do track how many of the completes you have. Okay. What else, Stephanie?
Do you recommend that the TC be the admin? Do you recommend the assistant be the TC and the admin too?
No, not always, because two different personality styles, but as your business grows. So your first assistant is going to do both jobs. Then when you get over 50 transactions, you hire your second assistant. When you get over 40, start looking for your second assistant. And then you're going to peel them off based on their personality style and what they're the best at. So you may have one assistant that's really great with people skills and listings. And then you may have another assistant that's a high C, crosses the T's, dot the I's. You can't have a TC that is not a high C. This is where the rubber meets the road. Everything has to be precise and all the information has to be accurate, and they can't drop things through the cracks. They've got to be real anal about everything. Okay. So when you split them off, you have to decide. And I only like one listing manager and one TC. I don't like one person doing all the jobs. I do as your first assistant, they do all the jobs, and you build the systems and you hire the second person. Okay. When will you know you're ready to grow? I do about 40 transactions a year and have one assistant that does everything, marketing, etc. So Brittany, I love the question. And here's what I'm going to say. I say you're ready to grow. If you can do 40 transactions, how do you do 80? So you set the plan in place. You go on more listing appointments. You work with more buyers that are qualified. You have other lead generation systems. So you're ready to hire the next assistant if you're ready to grow. There's nothing wrong with doing 40 and having a great assistant and say, that's my life, I'm happy. And then if you want to go to 80, how do you do that? You have to hire another next assistant, and are you going to hire a buyer agent? Follow the MREA. You hire your first two assistants before you bring on a buyer agent. It uncomplicates your life. Anything else, Stephanie, that we missed?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Okay, you guys, I'm Monica at kw.com. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I'd love for you to join the classes in March. Go to family reunion. I'll see you there also. And thank you for the privilege of spending time with you this morning. Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a great and happy, safe time. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank
Hope you
you.
got something good. Bye.